Dr. Stephen Greer was on Jesse Michels' show. I mean, they really dove deep into a lot of different things. And this particular clip was one that stood out to me, hence why I wanted to cover it on today's show. There's been mention, and Jesse Michels has been the first one who ever brought it to my attention, with the John F. Kennedy association with UAPs, UFOs, and whatnot. So I want to play this particular clip, and then we'll talk about it after. It's a longer clip. It's about 3 minutes. So I'm going to play this clip, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. But this is Jesse Michels and Stephen Greer. Here it is.
So how deep is the deep state that deals with this topic? If you have Bill Clinton kind of knocking on the door of the program and not getting let in, what are we talking about as far as a power structure here?
Well, it's exactly what Eisenhower described when he went out of office in 61. In January of 61, when he left and Jack Kennedy came in. And he said, beware the military-industrial complex. It'll become a threat to our way of life, and excessive secrecy will destroy democracy. I'm paraphrasing, but you can read the speech. The same thing that Jack Kennedy said in a number of speeches. And then we know for a fact, and I know the people who have the actionable intelligence on this, Jack Kennedy was killed over this issue. And the constellation of programs attached to UAPs, and particularly the science and technology branch of it, which we'll get into. That's two big pillars here, keeping it secret. They want people to go out publicly, and we know who they are, who will spin the subject in the direction of it being an alien threat for the purpose of a totalitarian superstate uniting the world against aliens, which is a total hoax and nonsense. And that's, it's like the movie Independence Day or The War of the Worlds or whatever. Like when Will Smith goes, let's kick alien butt, right? That whole script was like out of CIA central scripting casting. Not that Will Smith is, he's a great guy, but it was reached out to us and very interested. But I think that the trajectory of this goes back to the late 50s, probably earlier, but definitely the decapitation of the presidency happened on Eisenhower's watch. And we know that Jackie Gleason knew this, and some people that in my early days as a young doctor when I first started this, I got to know some people who had known Eisenhower. And like one of our whistleblowers way back then, when we kicked off the whole disclosure project effort in the mid-90s, it was called Project Starlight, code name, we were private. And then it went public in 2001 with the National Press Club that had 800 million people see it. And then 9/11 happened a few months later as a direct consequence, which I don't want to get into that much, but this was going to get blown wide open.
Interesting.
And they needed a diversion, so they created something called 9/11, and that's been stuck in that world for 20 years. But what's fascinating about this so-called deep state is that it was a carryover out of World War II. And it started when a man who was one of the original founders of CIA, Allen Dulles, it was OSS during World War II. The other thing was a guy named Paul Mellon. And Mellon was one of the few billionaires in the world at the end of World War II. I mean, having billions of dollars in 45, amazing.
I get so confused because there's just so much that Stephen Greer says that you just you think, and when you're talking, you're going, man, if this guy's telling the truth and the things that he knows and the kind of things that he's alleged, I mean, we're just living in a facade, if all this stuff seems to be indeed true, right? Now, a few different people have hinted at the Kennedy side of things that there is indeed, he was trying to get to the bottom of it. Interesting angle with Eisenhower, and that Eisenhower pretty much told Kennedy, look, this is what you're going to be dealing with. And then he also says that with that, Eisenhower was really the last of how the presidency was held strong and was the job, as opposed to now where there's a lot of things that the president doesn't know and will not be let part of if, again, the deep state is indeed what Stephen Greer and others say that it is. It's interesting to discuss. It's interesting that there's all this particular information that Stephen Greer has said that there are many people out there who are essentially misinformation agents, and I think he's probably hinting at Lou Elizondo because he and Lou clearly do not get along, haven't seen eye to eye. He's pretty much said that Lou Elizondo is not being transparent and not being genuine with what he's saying, and then Greer has said many times over that this objective of trying to start to get the public to believe that there's a potential invasion or whatnot. But that's also, you could look at it on one side and say, well, if you dive deep into it and you look at the things that Mellon and Lou have been saying and say that there's it seems like there are a few more ominous things that were said about making it seem almost like that these things were benevolent, that there was those types of comments here and there leading into, you go, okay, maybe, is that kind of the setup for what Stephen Greer alleges that they're gonna do? Or, the other side of it is, because they've never outright said these things are dangerous. So the other side of it is, well, we can't even get Congress or the news, really, to even cover this stuff. So who's to say they're going to start talking about an alien invasion? It looks like we're pretty far from that. We can't even, we're trying to still figure out what those drones in New Jersey are. So there's a lot of things Stephen Greer talks about with technology and how the quote that always gets me was, anything that you can think of that has happened in Star Trek, we've already done it. We have it because of this technology we've gotten from reverse engineering and whatnot. I mean, it's a fascinating conversation that he and Jesse have. There's no doubt about it. But it's like, this is what also the frustrating side of it is, right? That if you know that this was indeed the thing that got Kennedy killed, right? If that was indeed the case. And now they're going through these files and nothing really came of it. Like, we all kind of knew. So they released the Kennedy files. They're going to release this stuff. Nothing really came of it. It just was seemed like a stunt for the most part. No big information came out that really changed anything. There might have been some things, but nothing that really changed anything, right? So if there was indeed something inside there that said this is what happened, he was snooping around, really wanted to get to the bottom of this, knew indeed that the UFOs were alien life and all that. It's the biggest story in the world. It's the biggest story in the world. John F. Kennedy killed because he had proof of alien life or whatever it was, or that UFOs were indeed otherworldly. It sounds like something you read on, when you're at what was it, Bat Boy and this other stuff that used to see in the National Enquirer and things of that nature. But it's not that far-fetched anymore when you have someone like David Grush in front of Congress talking about this stuff and saying that there's otherworldly craft and there's alien bodies and things of that nature. But that's why, it's just, I hate the fact that I've gotten to a place where I don't believe anybody anymore. Not Greer in particular. I'm talking about when it comes to, well, we're going to do this. We're going to release these files. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's like, okay, all right, sure. I believe you. Oh, it didn't happen? Or what it did was all this stuff is redacted? Okay. Right. So there's, unfortunately, in the same way that anybody who talks on these interviews right now can be fascinating, it's all it is. It's fascinating. And maybe, and you're always going to land with, man, what if that's true? Or, man, that's a crazy story. Like the stuff he says and the things that he has said. You're like, if this guy this could be something in, let's say 10 years from now, there's no doubt anymore. We know information has come out. We know, and everything Stephen Greer said was true. He's gonna be a legend for the rest of the existence of the earth. The guy was telling everyone thought he was crazy, and he said all of this stuff. We had all this stuff, And he said it. Or 20 years, we're still talking about it. I wonder if they're ever going to mention anything about UFOs. And you say, hey, remember that guy Stephen Greer used to talk? He had some crazy theories. What about that guy? Where do you land? Where do you land when you hear this particular topic, when you hear this interview clip? What say you? I am going to put the link to the full interview with Jesse Michels in the description. Make sure you go and check that out. It's a fascinating conversation in general. So thank you for being here. Thank you in general. If you want to support this channel and you feel like you want to do that, ExpressVPN, they're our sponsor this week. I hope you enjoy them. They're probably the best VPN out there. I'm going to tell you about them, and then I'll put the link in the description for that. Go and check that out. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you. Have a great weekend. Bye. How did you choose which internet service provider to use? The sad thing is that most of us have very little choice because ISPs operate like monopolies in the regions that they serve. Then they use this monopoly power to take advantage of customers, data caps, bandwidth throttling, the list goes on. But worst of all, ISPs have the ability to keep a log of every website that you visit, and so can a ton of other third parties, unless you use ExpressVPN. Now, I think this is why everyone needs to use ExpressVPN, because with third parties, the problem is they see everything that you're looking at. It doesn't matter. Even if you're in incognito mode, they can check it out. The internet service provider, the mobile network provider, the admins of your Wi-Fi network, everything. School, boss, parents, all that stuff. ExpressVPN reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure encrypted servers so third parties can't see your browsing history. It's the best. It is really a great VPN. It's easy to use, because you can just fire up the app and you just click one button and get it protected. Hide your IP address, makes it very difficult for third parties to track your online activity. Everybody is using VPN and everybody's using ExpressVPN because it's rated #1 by the top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. So for me, it's on the plane. It's in the airport. That's when I'm using it. And it's always something that I like to do. And also, if I'm going to be using it to stream things out of the country, things that I can't access here, I'm using ExpressVPN. So protect your online privacy today. Use expressvpn.com/DTE. That is expressvpn.com/DTE. And you can get an extra 4 months free. expressvpn.com/DTE.